I just got three things to say. God bless our troops, God bless America, and gentlemen, start your engine!
Welcome to the Stire Sound podcast with your hosts, Trey, Stire, and Jack Noel.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 23 of the Stire Sound. 2 episodes in 1 week, and we are here today to preview the 250 class for Monster Energy AMA Supercross. We'll be focusing a little bit more on the West Coast, of course, because they are up first this weekend at Angel Stadium in Anaheim, California. But we will be mentioning some of the 250 East contenders and briefly running that down before the series starts in February. Thank you for tuning in and listening wherever you may be listening from, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Thank you for tuning in once again. I am your host, Trey Stire. Joining me as always from the Dirt Legal Dirt Bike Depot Racing WMR KTM team, Jack Noel is here, and we are going to hop into this thing right away, starting with 250 West, and of course, the dominant force in the 250 class from the past couple years is back for one last championship push. Haiden Deegan moving up to the 450 class this summer for the Pro Motocross Championship, but he has one piece of business left. He's trying to go back to back in the 250 West Series. Of course, winning the championship last year. Some battles with Julian Beaumer, Cole Davies throughout the season, but he got the job done for his first indoor championship, and now he's back trying to go 2 for 2 in West Coast championships after going 0 for 2 on the East Coast. Jack, of course, Haiden Deegan's going to be the heavy favorite going into the year in the 250 division. What do you think is the key for Haiden to get the job done this year, and do you think he's going to have a better chance at having a dominant title victory, or will he have to really fight with some of these competitors on the 250 West Championship Series every week and keep them at bay?
Yeah, I think as long as everybody else in the class can stay healthy, I think the West has better top guys. I think you look at Kitchen, Anstie, Hymas, and some Ryder D, even some of those guys who I think have the speed to run up there with Deegan. The biggest thing is who can stay healthy, right? I think that kind of last year. I mean, Joe, it wasn't it was super easy for Deegan. I think he didn't win a race until 8-2, right?
Correct,
I believe.
Correct. Yeah.
So it wasn't it was handed to Deegan early on last year. I think that's where then when Shimoda broke his finger at San Diego. And then the whole A2 stuff with Beaumer, I think if Beaumer didn't get caught up in that stuff right away with Deegan, I think it's a different story. And I don't even know if he had been champion, to be honest. But then, obviously, the Davies push came on strong, but it was pretty much over at that point because the series had kind of taken away. But now, this being it's really the West Coast is happening, and then the East Coast is happening. There's no mixing in between. We're gonna get 4 rounds. We're getting 7 rounds, I think, straight. Boom, 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 boom. And then it starts, I think it's 6 or 7 rounds, I believe, of just straight West, and then East-West shootouts, stuff like that. So, if he can manage to have the points lead at the end of, before it goes East, I think Deegan's in the driver's seat. Because I think Deegan can manage it better than a lot of other guys could. But if Deegan's not, and he's trying to find something these last couple of races where he's going to be pushing himself maybe above the envelope and finds himself in a situation where if he doesn't, fix it right away, he starts trying to make too many things happen. It could definitely be one of those things that I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't win, right, the title. But if he starts out strong and it has a significant gap by whenever we go east, right, to Arlington, I think it'll be no doubt that he's going to win. So, but I think that's the key for him really is having a strong first couple weekends right out of the gate, because last year it took him until A2, and then the field that kind of already took a kind of took a shit, right? I mean, with Shimoda getting hurt, and then I believe Ryder D got hurt, and then I believe Beaumer just kind of had like an off weekend or something like that. I don't really remember all that happened, but granted, and then it took Davies, and Davies wasn't kind of hot until the end of the year. So I think if we go back and look, I think we could say that the West Coast has better top guys. There's more guys like that could, I think, knock him off with Kitchen. I mean, I think McAdoo's racing West, if I'm corrected, right?
Yes, McAdoo is now switched to West.
Yeah, so McAdoo racing West, he's a guy I think that, he has the speed to run up front and can definitely take a result away. I don't think he's a title guy right now, but I mean, he's won races in the past, and it's, he's a tough dude. And if he can stay healthy, I mean, he's a scary guy to watch for the title potentially. Levi, same thing. If he can stay healthy, be through the whole thing, and he can steal, if he can steal one of these, let's say he steals 2 out of the first 4 races from Deegan, I think Deegan's on the plan trying to play offense, and it's a completely different story. I think that's the goal, I think, with anything, is trying to keep Deegan from playing defense, because he's so good at playing the defense, because his offense is typically so good. But if you catch Deegan on an off night and you can capitalize on that, which I'm sure he'll have one, you just want to be kind of right with him the whole time, I think, and that's going to be the key to it. I really do, and I think you could agree with me when I say that the West Coast guys, I think, has more top caliber riders than the East Coast looks like it will have, in my opinion. So I think that's it. I think that's the key. If he can get through these first 6 races and be and the whole field is healthy, I think it's going to be a fight to the end. And I just hope that's kind of what happens. I hope that if these guys can steal a win or 2 away from Deegan, it'll make this series real interesting. And I think if Deegan's trying to play more offense than defense, it could be scary for him.
I do agree with your point about more top-level guys, it seems like, on the West Coast, but personally, I feel like the guy who would be most likely to challenge Haiden Deegan is not on the West Coast. Personally, I think Cole Davies would be the guy of everyone that is healthy right now. Obviously, Joe Shimoda would be up there, but we don't really know when he's coming back from injury. Cole Davies would have been my pick, honestly, for a guy to compete with Deegan the closest. And you think about last season, of course, you mentioned Juju started hot, Shimoda got hurt early. I don't think Deegan held the red plate until Arlington, because Julian went 2-1-2, if I'm not mistaken, at the beginning rounds, and it wasn't until he had some problems at Glendale where he really started losing ground in the championship. And of course, they had their beef back and forth or whatever. But now you talk about beef, Levi Kitchen and Deegan are already starting to get into it on social media, I guess, talking about something with bike stands. I don't really know what's going on, but the typical barking back and forth. But we definitely have several winning caliber riders on the West Coast that could potentially challenge Haiden Deegan. I think, to your point, if Deegan loses the first couple rounds, he's going to have to go into that form like last year, where he's going to have to use the consistency early on and then end up switching to the wins later. But if he goes out there, wins Anaheim 1 or San Diego, or builds an early points lead, I think it's going to be over very quickly. Looking at the 250 West Series, Levi Kitchen would probably be the second favorite for the championship. But after last season, I really feel like Levi took a step back. Of course, his 2024 was very good, held the red plate in the West Coast Series for a long time until he crashed with his teammate at Nashville. And then he won a few outdoor races as well. He was looking really good, and I think the place that Joe Shimoda took in 2025, where he really became the guy to challenge Deegan indoors and out, that was the spot a lot of people expected Kitchen to be in. And of course, Levi's year started off a little strange. He was going to run West Coast, then got some kind of sickness or illness that kept him out of action. Looked good early on in 250 East, but went down really hard at Daytona, went out of the rest of the season. Then outdoors just wasn't really the same guy that he was in 2024 when Joe Shimoda was going up front and flat out dominating some races. It'll be interesting to see, because I feel like Kitchen and Shimoda have flipped from their spots going into 2025, where Shimoda was kind of coming in under the radar last year a little bit more because his 2024 didn't go so well. Now it's a bit of the opposite because Kitchen's 2025 was a bit disappointing, a bit lower than the standards that people were giving him credit for, and now Kitchen's probably going to come into this season with a vengeance and really try to attack. And of course, one guy I'm really interested to see on the West Coast, mainly for this show's purposes, is Max Anstie. If you remember back to when we were picking the World Supercross Series, Jack went out and said that not only would Max Anstie win the World Supercross 250 Championship, which we agreed on, and he definitely took care of that in dominating fashion, but Jack was also leaning toward picking Max Anstie as a 250 regional Supercross champion. Of course, things are going to be pretty tough when he's got to go up against Haiden Deegan, but is there any truth to that still, Jack? Are you still thinking that Max Anstie can make a run for this championship after so many signs the last couple years, especially at the beginning of last year's 250 East title series when he won Tampa, dominated Detroit until the red flag, but unfortunately a couple weeks later he went down with that leg injury and was out until the playoffs?
I think for me, Max Anstie is in my head the title favorite behind Deegan, right? I think Deegan's still obviously I think everybody's favorite and on paper whatever to win the title, but I think if anybody can do it and can do it dominatingly and like straight up, if nobody gets hurt, whatever, if Anstie stays healthy and wins one of the first 4 races, I think he wins the title. Like I really do. Like I think if he's up there on the podium in these first 4 races and win one of them, and if he gets in like a groove, and this is the thing this year, like a lot of the times in years past, a lot of these guys haven't really had the opportunity to get in like a groove of multiple races back to back. This year, you're finally going to get that. And I think that's going to be even better for Max Anstie with already having the gate drops under his belt with the whole World Supercross thing. Although I think we didn't see top 4 Max Anstie there. Because I think he kind of knew, like, I don't really have to be my top form. I just want to win these races and get my bonus and get out and be a world champion. Sweet, which he did. But I think for sure he'll be right up there. I think 100% I could see him winning this title. I think I'm still going to pick him to win this title, just because I think he's that fast. And I think for like a maturity standpoint, I think he's one of the only people that I think could deal with what Deegan's going to throw at them throughout this whole year. I mean, even though they're under the same tent, same bike, all that stuff, I think he could be the person to knock Deegan off his throne this year. So I really hope that Max can kind of shut everybody up, and I think he will. I think he's one of the only people that like I said, have the maturity and the ability to kind of not let the mind games get to him and let things like that play effect. So I'm very excited to see how he does. I think as long as he doesn't start the year off slow, which I don't think he will, just because I think he raced earlier in December, right? I mean, he's going to have maybe a week or so off and then back on the bike, and he's kind of probably itching to get back behind the gate. I mean, it's only a month off of racing, which is pretty good. So, and then everybody else has been off for who knows how long. So, and I do think that Deegan going to that 450, it's either going to hinder him a little bit or it's going to help him. I would hope it is the help side, just to maybe have him run a little bit. But I don't know. I think Anstie's going to be fast. I think Kitchen's going to be fast. I think McAdoo's going to be fast. I think Hymas is going to be fast, and I think Deegan's going to be fast. So I think it's going to be a fight between those 5 guys. I think Hymas is getting a little bit pushed under the rug. I feel like he's going to breakout year coming. Trey, I'm not sure how you feel about that, but I think Hymas is somebody that kind of like last year, he didn't have a great year, kind of was like dealing with some injuries. It seems like he had like a full off season this year. Going into 2026, I mean, I feel like I've heard nothing about him, how Hymas is going to do. And then I kind of agree with your point on the whole Levi Kitchen situation, what's going to happen with him. I'm not sure. I think I kind of put him behind Max Anstie in the title favorite spot, but I could also see Levi, if he gets on the groove early, whoever sets the tone in this championship, in my opinion, will be a high favored next to Deegan, in my opinion. But I'm interested to see what you have to say about what Chance Hymas has been up to. What do you think his ceiling is for this year, Trey?
Real quick before I get to Hymas, I will mention, as you've said, 6 rounds at the start, right in a row all West Coast. So it's definitely going to be a sprint early on to see who races out to that points lead. And one thing about talking about the maturity of Max Anstie, I think your point about him being mature enough to handle Deegan and not really get rattled is a very good point, because I think of Max Anstie and I think that he has raced pretty much every top level star in the sport. Of course, he raced against Tomac and Roxon and some of those guys when they were in the 250 class over here. He raced, of course, Tim Geiser, Jeffrey Hurlings, Roman Fevre over in the GPs. Came back over here. He's raced the Lawrence brothers, raced Haiden Deegan a little bit before. He has so much experience racing pretty much all of the top level guys from around the world that it could really help out Max Anstie. But talking about Chance Hymas, he has flown under the radar this year, and I don't think that Hymas is going to be necessarily a championship contender, but I think if he can just gradually build and start growing, if he can get a win or two this season, it will be great and put him in great position. We know how much speed he shows and how much pace he shows in the outdoor series. You look at Thunder Valley, what a performance he had there in June, and of course in 2024 at Thunder Valley and Redbud, he was performing very well. I think Chance getting through the year healthy is one of the biggest things, because Chance has had some really good results and he starts building and then he gets hurt and then he has to start back and build up to it again. Last year's series, a bit up and down. He did get his first win in the mud at Foxborough, but he's really a wild card going into this, perhaps the biggest wild card, because we think Deegan's the title favorite. We've mentioned Kitchen and Anstie, probably the two next guys in there. Hymas might be the real wild card because we know he's shown the speed at times, more so outdoors. But what if he starts putting things together, maybe with a more complete offseason? Of course, this injury in the most recent year was in June at High Point as opposed to the end of the Nationals in 2024. So he had a little bit more time to recover, get back on the bike. It'll be interesting to see what Hymas does. I think Cameron McAdoo is another guy that you're really going to have to consider as a wild card. It seems like every year he starts the series strong no matter what. And it seems like if he stays healthy, he's good for a win or two. Of course, he was holding the red plate at Nashville in 2024. I mentioned Kitchen holding the red plate that year and crashing with his teammate. Cameron McAdoo was that teammate. Both red plate holders crashed on the same night. And Cameron last year, once again, he starts the season, podiums at Tampa, but then he goes down hard and knocks himself out at Detroit, down hard again at Daytona. I mean, McAdoo, you have this reputation with him to where he's got this winning speed, he's got these podium finishes, he's a very likable guy, but for whatever reason it just seems like bad luck or injuries always creep in. And I think McAdoo could really be a wild card in all of this. If he stays healthy, I think he has a chance to potentially make some noise and to ruffle some feathers in the championship race a little bit. But on the other hand, you look at the recent years and it doesn't happen. McAdoo staying healthy is something that is not very common nowadays, unfortunately. So it'll be very interesting to see if he's able to really rise up and be able to challenge throughout the season. But I think you look at some other guys, there are going to be some other podium contenders in there. Michael Mosman, who I think was one of the better comeback stories in the last couple years, retired, was done from racing pretty much, then Star gave him another chance. And it was up and down a little bit last year, but he still got a couple podiums, still showed signs of speed, and that's another guy who has a main event win under his belt. Michael Mosman, of course, won Oakland in 2022. He's been up there at the top step of the podium before. Ryder DeFrancisco on the Rockstar Husqvarna is going to be one of those wild card guys, somebody that you've heard rumblings of flying at the test track during the off season. We'll see if that comes to fruition, but Ryder D was looking a little bit better in Supercross last year, starting to be consistent top 5 guy, then unfortunately gets hurt, was running really good at Las Vegas at the last SMX round. Of course, he gets landed on. Unfortunate, but I think he could really start to put things together this year if he stays healthy, stays in it. Plus, I want to give a shout out to Maximus Voland, Club MX Yamaha as well. Of course, he's not a factory guy, but Max got a podium at Pittsburgh last season. He had a really strong year. So even when you look past the top 3 to 5 guys a little bit, there are still a lot of talented racers in this 250 West division when you look at guys like McAdoo, like Hymas, and even somebody like Maximus Voland or Ryder D. There are a lot of guys with talent who are going to be lining up on that gate this weekend in Angel Stadium. And then you look at the 250 East Series, and we're not going to get into this a ton as of right now, but I will briefly mention as of now some of the top contenders for that. If Joe Shimoda is healthy and able to race it, I feel like he could be the title favorite, but we have no idea. Once again, neck injuries, back injuries are very hard to predict how long the timetable for recovery is. So we will see if Shimoda is there. But if Shimoda can't go, I said it already, Cole Davies, in my opinion, would be the favorite probably. I said he would be the closest competitor for Deegan if he was racing against him. I think Cole, even though he's only going into his second season, could be the championship favorite in 250 East. Other Star Yamaha guys, you have Nate Thrasher, who should be on the East Coast. Of course, he's very up and down, but he's always good for a win or two every year. You never know that there's always a night where Nate Thrasher pops up and wins the race. Pierce Brown, getting back healthy, man, he was trending in the right direction. That stock was going through the roof halfway through the Tampa main event last year. Of course, he won the Las Vegas SMX finale the previous year, and then he was leading at Tampa. Unfortunately, crashed hard, went down, was done the rest of the year pretty much. So it'll be interesting to see how Pierce can come back to action. Seth Hamaker is a guy I look at that could contend in the 2026 250 East Series. Of course, Seth had a great 2025, was in the 250 East Series. And really, I think the most important thing from 2025 for Seth was staying healthy. He's shown flashes of speed. He had won in the past, but so many injuries were taking a toll on him. And making it through the entire 2025 year healthy, he did have to have a little bit of shoulder surgery at the offseason, but making it to pretty much every race and competing from start to finish. He ended up getting second in the playoff standings, and I don't think a lot of people realize that. But Seth had a fantastic year. Drew Adams will be over there for the Pro Circuit guys as well. It seems like it was originally supposed to be Kitchen and Adams on the West, and then McAdoo Hamaker on the East, but things have flipped. Now it seems Drew Adams will be on the East Coast. Speaking of East Coast, we'll have some other guys out there. We should have Dax Bennick and Casey Cochran for the Rockstar Husqvarna team. We'll have Jalik Swoll and Austin Forkner representing Triumph, and I think Jalik could be a real dark horse to contend and to run up front. He's talked about several times how he was having a great off-season heading into 2025, but unfortunately got hurt, missed all of Supercross, ended up missing part of outdoors, but the few outdoor races he ran before he was hurt again, he looked very good, got a podium at Redbud, his starts were on point. If we could see that level of Jalik Swoll again, he could be someone to really surprise some people on the East Coast, but plenty of talent over there in the East. We will make our 250 East championship predictions and really dive into that series a little bit later on. But for now, what guys do you think have the ability to really come out strong in the middle of February when the 250 East championship gets going in Arlington?
Yeah, the East Coast is always kind of brings what seems to be like the more depth to the field when it comes to like I think the 3 to 12 position, which kind of mixes it up a little bit. I mean, you have a guy like Seth Hamaker who came just so close to winning a title this year on the East Coast. I think he's going to be somebody that's going to be really dangerous. I think Shimoda's going to be dangerous. I think Cole Davies is going to be dangerous. I think those three guys, in my opinion, if Joe's healthy, obviously, which I think he should be ready to go. Hopefully that doesn't hinder him too much and he's able to be 100% going into Arlington. But I think those three guys, in my head, are the guys I would be favorites to win the title. I think it's going to be very close at the top, and then the middle will be kind of a bounce around. I think our surprise podiums here and there. But like you said, a guy like Pierce Brown, a guy like Jalik Swoll, Nate Thrasher, those guys could sneakily have a really good round here and there and kind of, you know, add some sweat to the East Coast, in my opinion, like kind of make it a little more interesting. But I don't think I see those guys as being guys that can really compete for the title. I just don't think they have enough experience, and I think they need to kind of get through the year healthy to kind of do that. I believe Faulkner is racing East Coast as well, correct?
Yeah, both Triumph guys on the East
Yeah.
Coast this year. Cody's starting on the 450.
So you have those guys as well. I mean, Faulkner, I think if he's depending on how he does in this 450, I think that if it's not great, I think they're going to put him to the 250 East, which hopefully I want to see him race that because I think he has the ability to really be competitive still. If he can kind of get out of his own head a little bit and maybe open up and loosen up, and we can see that Faulkner of the past. But I don't know, there's so many guys, man. That's just the thing. Like Cochran, Bennick. I mean, who else from Star? Davies, Thrasher, Pierce. So I mean, there's and like I mean, you have Cochran, Bennick, and then who? Well, I mean, KTM. I mean, we're DVD Racing is the sole KTM team on the East Coast. But yeah, I mean, there's so many guys that in
Cody
my head that
Schock.
are
There's a
Cody
name.
Shaw, Colin Park. I mean, those guys were
Yep.
and that's another thing too. Those guys have been racing. Like they could come out and be surprised in the first couple rounds just because they've been behind the gate. And it's, I mean, these guys that are waiting to go east, like it's going to be September since their last gate drop, most of these guys. So I don't know. The East Coast has just got so much depth to it that like whoever goes out and has a good first couple rounds, I think, and can kind of get in a groove is going to be who's good. So I'm interested to see how it goes. I know Arlington's kind of the dirt's really weird. Like it's soft, but it's also like tacky and slick in some spots. It's really weird. But I don't know. It's just the East Coast has so many guys, and it's just so like who's going to be healthy going into the season, who's going to be, you know, whatever. I mean, you have Adams as well. I think Adams is really really fast. I mean, I think he's going to be somebody I think that might come off the page and be kind of maybe shock us a little bit in my head. I think he's coming into his second year racing pro now. I think he'll be really good. I mean, yeah, there's just so many guys in my head that like you can just name inside that top 10 that could potentially even like podium, right? Or even win. So it's going to be good. I think if like a guy like Pierce Brown can come out swinging right away and be on the podium, I think he kind of inserts himself in that title conversation. But I think it's going to come down to those three guys between Shimoda, Deegan, or not Deegan, Davies and Hammaker. I think Hammaker's due. I think he's so consistent, and if he can stay healthy and keep it on two and have a good and win one of the first four rounds, I think he, no doubt in my head, is a guy that's ready to compete for this title. I mean, realistically speaking, if RJ doesn't take him out, I think he wins the East Coast title last year. I think Tom got lucky a little bit in a sense, and got gifted that. I mean, but at the same time, it's gonna be really really interesting to see who kind of immerses himself into that title conversation, because I think there's going to be a guy or two that does that out of the top 10 guys we've been talking about. But the East Coast, I think, will shake up to who's healthy, and those three guys, if they're fully ready to go, and kind of who can dominate from the start. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I think it's going to be fun, and I think this whole year is going to be good as long as people can stay healthy. So yeah, I'm excited to see how everybody does, and I'm excited to watch A1 this weekend. I'm super super excited. So yeah, but that's my take on the East Coast. I think it's just going to be who can break out the earliest and can kind of put themselves in that conversation of like I can win races, and I think we'll see some new race winners this year, good new guys on the podium. I think it'll be good.
Before we get into our 250 West Championship predictions and our Anaheim 1 podium predictions, I do have a question for you, and I will answer it as well, my take on it. But it seems like the 250 class, of course, you have your guys that are going to be rising stars and moving up to the 450 ranks and potentially running the sport in a few years. Obviously, it's going to be very hard with the Lawrence brothers and Sexton and the seeming stranglehold that they have now in the 450 class. But it always seems like there are some guys in the 250 class every year where it feels like it starts to become make or break for them. And I'd love to hear your take on this. Personally, I feel Nate Thrasher could be one of those guys that ends up becoming a lifelong 250 guy, or at least most of his career. I feel like Nate could be a Jordan Smith, RJ Hampshire guy, maybe somebody who sticks around the 250 class for a long time, I don't know if he's necessarily make or break, but it just seems like it was very topsy-turvy for him. He was able to stay healthy a lot last year and make it to the playoffs, and I believe he was in the top 5 of the championship overall in the playoffs, which is
I think he
pretty
got
solid.
hurt
Yeah, he was up
with
there.
the Deegan penalty. So
Yeah,
and then the
I
like
know
him
he was
going
the
down.
top star guy at least. So
Yeah,
a little bit under the radar there, but I feel like Nate, some people might think he's probably a make or break level guy, but I feel like Nate could really fit into this like Jordan Smith, RJ Hampshire mold where he ends up becoming sort of a 250 lifer kind of guy. But in terms of full on make or break, I feel like even though he's on a brand new team, I think Dax Bennick might be in a make or break season. And of course, he had a solid amateur career. He was looking good in SMX Next. He won a few races, and he's had a couple podiums, but other than the 2 podiums at the start of each of his Supercross seasons, there hasn't been a lot to write home about. Last year was injury riddled, so I will give him a bit of a pass on that, but it just seems like for whatever reason, of course, Dax goes over to Star. He was one of those guys that they poached from Orange Brigade. They did the same with Deegan. They did the same with Thrasher. They did the same with Cole Davies. Of course, Cole was mainly a tryout ride for the gas side of things. But Star Yamaha has poached so many of these Orange Brigade guys. You could even say Minier as well, going over and getting him from the Australian branch of KTM. But Star loves to go after some of these guys. They've taken a few of the Team Green stars with Dudney, Carson Wood, and even Landon Gordon now moving over to that team. But I feel like Dax is going to have to step it up a little bit in the 250 class this year. As I mentioned, injuries, those can really mess with you, and it's understandable to have a little bit of down results when you have injuries. But man, I think back to the 2024 Outdoor Series, it felt like the results were pretty disappointing for Dax. When he came in as a rookie, he was around the top 10. I think he even got a top 5 or 2 at Budds Creek. And then it seemed like his next year, his first full year of outdoors, 2024, he was just there. He wasn't really making any noise. He was just in the 15 to 20 range, which if you're Star Yamaha, Bobby Reagan's not going to tolerate that for very long. So I feel like Daxton, if he goes out there, has a solid year, stays healthy, if he gets a couple podiums and really doesn't fluctuate too much, is like a 5 to 10 guy in outdoors and has some really strong runs in Supercross, I think he'll be good to go, but I'm a little bit concerned after some of the recent results from him. Hopefully he's able to perform well, but Jack, I don't know about you. Who do you have in the 250 class that you're keeping an eye on and thinking, man, this guy could be in trouble if he doesn't have a great year?
yeah, it's so hard to say because like you look at like a guy like Thrasher, right? It seems like I mean his ceiling in his career so far has been wins. So like you can't really like if I'm a team owner, I'm looking at a guy who's won a race before and saying, am I going to give up on a guy that's winning me races when I have guys on my team that haven't done that yet? No. So I think Thrasher, like you said, could have that career similar to Jordan Smith or RJ Hampshire, sits in the 250 class for a long time, until they get to that kind of like plethora of like now we've been in it for so long, we've learned so much, we finally get a healthy year and everything's going right and we win a championship. It could be something like that. Like, but that's just it with the 250 classes. All these guys is they get injured so often, and they're really pushing their limit, and you have races where they're inside the top 3 and they're podium races like Dax and Bennick. I mean, his ceiling so far in his career has been a podium. I'm not going to get rid of a podium guy. I mean, or he's not going to lose a factory ride from having a podium, like, unfortunately. But like a guy like Casey Cochran, right? I love Casey. My dad works for Casey. I really do. I feel bad for the way his career's kind of panned out so far, but a guy like him who Rockstar and GS Camarena has re-signed him on I'm not sure how long the deal is, but if it's a 1-year deal, right? I mean, if he gets hurt again, or if he goes out there and doesn't crack top 5s consistently, like that's a guy that I think like, okay, like if this guy doesn't get things rolling, like this could be bad. Like it's not good. I could also look at a guy like Hymas. I mean, other than Foxborough, which was a mutter, like him if he doesn't have a good year this year, Honda might start looking elsewhere. Like, really, like, I mean, I know he's pretty tight to Lawrence's and he's got like the whole deal going, but at the same time, it's like, Hymas, what have you done? I mean, in outdoors, that's the thing too. Hymas in outdoors has been great. So like, it's really hard to bet against him or like take that away when he's doing so good in outdoors. He was winning a race in outdoors. But come Supercross, which I think most teams, I would say, if you're a 75% Supercross guy, 25% outdoor guy, like they'll keep you if you're better at Supercross, no doubt. But like, let's say his outdoor results start shaking up, Hymas, and he can't stay healthy. I mean, that's a guy I think like Honda would be like, well, I'm kind of getting over the fact that this guy can't stay healthy, and we need a 250 class guy, and we got to find somewhere else that can win us a championship. I mean, like a team like Honda HRC, that's the expectation when you're one of two guys in the 250 class that ride for that team. Your seat is kind of shaky all the time. Like if you don't perform, if you're not on the podium every weekend, like there's a easy chance that you could get your seat taken, like by somebody who's maybe not the top guy on their team, but like, could come over and ride for you like a guy like Davies, right? Like or somebody in that sense, like if Deegan were staying 250 for another year, like if Davies was like now becoming the second guy on Star, like, and I want to go be the number one guy on a team that's proven themselves, you go to Honda, something like that. But like my whole thing with the whole make or break thing, it's guys like that are kind of in the situation of Casey Cochran, Jalek Swoll, like Cochran's ceiling has been a motocross podium, right? Like I think, yeah, that was great, and he led a bunch of laps, and it was a great thing for his rookie year, and I think that kind of held him on. I think he had a good outdoor year this past year until he got hurt. He was inside the top 10 pretty consistently. He was outperforming Ryder DeFrancisco in outdoors, but then Supercross, he got hurt before the season started, unfortunately, and he didn't have when he raced a couple Supercrosses when he came back from injury in 2024, it wasn't all that great. Like it was good, but it wasn't like, really, really good. So it's kind of I don't know, it's interesting scenarios in my head that play out. Like a guy like Ryder DeFrancisco too, like he hasn't really done much. Like I don't think he's ever podiumed. He's top 5 before, which is great, but like he needs to go out there and consistently be a top 5 guy and then break a couple podiums, have multiple podiums in my head throughout the entire 2026 SMX season to really be talked about as like, okay, yeah, this guy's a for sure thing to stay around. So, I mean, it seems like there's a bunch of guys coming up to the amateur ranks that like a guy like Timmerman, like, I mean, if I'm a team that's kind of over my guy getting 5th and 6th place every weekend and a guy like Timmerman's available, I'm going to go ahead and swoop him up. Like, I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, there's just so many seats out there with a bunch of really good riders in my head, but like, and there's only 3 spots on the podium. I mean, it's hard to, and they all want to be there. It's really hard to do that. So, and it's just tough because there is definitely like a gap between. There's only like a certain few amount of guys that aren't on like factory teams right now that I think can bridge that gap between some of those guys that are on factory teams. But like with the whole gas situation, them folding, and I mean, who knows how many seats are going to be on Husqvarna next year, and KTM's now down to 1 factory rider with Julian Wilmer. He's not even racing. I mean, it's tough. Like, it's how many seats are available, and that's really where you look at a guy for make or break, in my opinion, on whether or not, like, I think if you have a factory ride, like, you're still making it, like, you're fine. But like, if you lose that, like, it's hard to regain that bridge. Like, you look at a guy like Romano, right? Like, he was in a make or break scenario, couldn't stay healthy, didn't have like a ceiling that was like crazy high. Like, he didn't podium anything, he hasn't done anything crazy like that, and then he has a really bad year, gets hurt, and now look at him. I mean, he doesn't have a ride as of anything from what I know. A Ty Masterpool, same situation. Like, last year for Ty Masterpool, make or break. I think he podiumed a few times, but the Supercross side of things was terrible. I mean, it looked like, he rode San Diego and got hurt. And I think that for him, I think he kind of extends out these injuries so he doesn't have to race Supercross. And I hate to say it, but like, you look at a guy like Will Hahn, who wasn't the greatest outdoor rider, but his Supercross results were really solid on a 250, and then he was, good enough to earn a 450 seat. So it's just tough. It's really tough to know what's going to happen with a guy. So I agree. Like, if Thrasher has a down year this year and doesn't win any races, doesn't get any podiums, I could see him being out the door too. Like, it's really tough to say. A guy like Swoll, like you said, Daxton Bennick, like his situation's a little bit different. I think with him being on a new team, they're going to give him some grace. I think they're going to keep, like, you don't go sign a guy like Dax Bennick and, you're if he doesn't deliver his first year, you're not going to give him another chance, in my head, unless it's like really bad, really, really bad, which I don't perceive that happening. I just hope he can stay healthy and be, 100% going into the first round and continue that 100% health throughout the whole season. But I think that's just it for a lot of guys who can stay healthy and who can be in that, that talk of the top 5 in the podium and winning races. I think that's really it. I mean, like a guy like Cody Schock, a guy like Cullen Park, Maximus Voland, Lux Turner, Carson Mumford, guys like that who have shown the speed and shown the glimpses of like being really, really solid and could beat factory guys on their privateer bikes or kind of whatever. Like, those are the guys that I think if those guys are beating your factory guys on their machines that aren't factory tuned or whatever machines, those are the guys you have to look at and be like, okay, like, let's take a shot on a guy like Cullen and who's been on, a Phoenix bike, and now let's put him on let's say a Star bike or something like that, right? And see how he performs. So it's definitely interesting in any right to anybody to see how this year goes. I think the biggest thing is health, really, and I think that's the make or break for most riders is if who's been on the IR for maybe the past 2 years and hasn't been able to complete a full season. That's the number one goal, I think, for some of these guys to keep their rides, because when they're not riding the best and they're not racing the best, they're still better than I think some of the guys that are not on factory bikes. But like if those guys start beating you and you're healthy, okay, that's an issue. If those guys that are on bikes now that can stay healthy, I think that's the biggest thing. I think the biggest make or break this year, though, in my opinion, is probably Casey Cochran. Like, I hate to say it because I really do like the guy, and my dad works for him. It's a whole, I know a lot of ins and outs of that, but I think with him, his past 2 years, okay, now we're getting to his 3rd professional season. For him, that's the big make or break guy in my head. Like, he needs to. I think if he can be a top 7, top 5 guy consistently this year, he'll be okay. I think they'll keep him on and they'll keep moving with him, and hopefully he can improve year in and year out. He's only 20 years old, I believe. I'm interested to see how some of these guys do. I think that Husky team's got a lot of chance on it. I think there's some guys, depending on what the KTM group guys want to do. I mean, I think there's guys out there that they could try to poach or whatever, depending put on that bike, because they lose a guy like RJ Hampshire who's winning them races, so that kind of gets clouded on what's going on behind them, but within the team. And those guys, the focus will be on them this year in the 250 class. That whole team, I think, is under a magnifying glass with no RJ Hampshire to kind of lift up the 250 side of results.
You bring up a great point with Casey. Unfortunately, I kind of forgot about him in terms of the make or break, but I think you're on to something there. I was very high on Casey when he came out of the amateur ranks, and I still feel like he could have a great career. And he's shown some speed, he's shown some talent, but as you mentioned, injuries have taken him out of a lot of action. And if he can stay healthy this year, he'll be fine. But if something happens, he doesn't progress enough, and he keeps getting injured, unfortunately, he might be cut from these factory organizations. And it's sad to say that, but it's the nature of the beast. It's a very unforgiving sport, and you use the Nick Romano example. Moving on to our last part of the show, we are going to pick our 250 West champions, and we're going to pick our podium and our random spot for Anaheim 1. And real quick, just to run down, of course, the 450 episode. The 450 preview show was a different episode number 22. Make sure you check that out if you haven't already. And I will run down the predictions from there. Of course, we'll be keeping track of our predictions throughout the year for bragging rights between Jack and I. We both went with Chase Sexton as our 450 champion, and we were pretty similar on our Anaheim podiums. I had Ken Roczen in first, Malcolm Stewart second, Chase Sexton third. Jack had Roczen with the win, Sexton second, Eli Tomac third. And we're also bringing back our random spot prediction, which was 12th place. I went with Joey Savacci, and Jack went with his Quadlock Honda teammate, Christian Craig. Now that you're caught up, let's go ahead and get into it. 250 East champion, or 250 West champion, excuse me. I'm going safe pick. I'm going the smart choice. Haiden Deegan, back-to-back. Enough said. Jack, who's your 250 West champion? And why is he pitting out of the Star Yamaha truck?
I'm sticking with my blade, the British rider Max Anstie. And why is he putting out a Star Racing Yamaha truck? Is because it's the best bike on the circuit right now. And that's going to help him quite a bit. I think he's going to be able to take Deegan down this year. I'm hoping to see that happen. I mean, I definitely think Deegan's the favorite in anybody's head, and he really is the favorite in my head. But I do think that Max Anstie can do it, and I'm going to put my faith in that pick and say Max Anstie going to be your 2026 West Coast Supercross champion.
Somewhere Big Lou is smiling if he's hearing that. Max Anstie, 250 West champion. You might have made his day with that one. But going on to the podium predictions for Anaheim 1 in the 250 West division, I'll go ahead and start it out. Third place, I have Cameron McAdoo. It seems like he starts strong every season. Whether he trails off, gets hurt, finishes the whole year, Cameron McAdoo usually starts strong. And I'm going to go with the number 142, interesting number. Crockett Myers ran that number last year. Now Cameron McAdoo running 142. Selfishly, I was hoping he'd go back to the 812. I think that was his amateur number, a number that would look pretty sick on a Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki. Granted, the number might be taken by Luke Dickey. But shout out to Cameron McAdoo. I think he's back on the podium this week. I think he's going to have some really strong rides this year. Of course, he's about to become a father. Congratulations to the McAdoo family. And now he could start the year off with a great result. Third place. Second place, I'm going Haiden Deegan. I think something similar happens to last year's Anaheim 1, where Deegan either gets a bad start or gets caught in somebody else's mess toward the beginning of the race. I think Hayden's going to work his way through the pack and have a great race, but he's not going to be able to get up front and take the win. I think Haiden finishes P2. And then for the win, Anaheim 1 tends to have some wild results. Anaheim 1, it's been a few years in the 250 class now, but it also seems to have some first-time winners. Cole Seeley did it. Jesse Nelson did it. Shane McElrath, all those guys were on the same team, granted, coincidentally. Colt Nichols as well did it on Star Yamaha in 2019. But my pick, first career win, flying at the test track apparently. Anaheim 1, sometimes the stars align, sometimes people break through. Nobody thought Josh Grant would win in 2009 in the 450 class. Nobody had Davey Millsaps and Trey Kennard battling for the win in the 450 class. A few years later, when Villapoto, Dungey, Stewart, and Reed were all on the gate, strange things happen, and I think Ryder DeFrancisco gets his first career win at Anaheim. You talk about Rockstar Husqvarna being an absolute wild card team, potentially make or break scenarios for all three guys. I think Ryder D is going to come out swinging, have a great night, and the chaos and sometimes the unpredictability of Anaheim 1, I think it's going to work out in his favor, and we are going to see a Rockstar Husqvarna on top of the podium. What you got?
I think what you're saying right now is crazy. I would not have guessed you picking Ryder DeFrancisco.
That was the goal. You're the guy who goes out on a limb a little bit, but a lot of times you're still pretty solid in there. I'm like, man, it's Anaheim 1. We're bound for another surprise winner. The last couple years it really hasn't happened, but sometimes A1 just has these wacky races or people you don't expect. Another example I think of, I don't think anybody in their right mind would have had Justin Barcia and Dean Wilson battling to the death for the win in 2019. So my examples, if it happened before, I don't know if it's going to happen necessarily, but you know what? I'm willing to take a swing on the first race of the year.
And that is one hell of a swing. I'll go 1 to 3. I'm gonna go Levi Kitchen. Levi Kitchen backs the shit talk over the offseason. Stuns Deegan. I think it's gonna be a Deegan Kitchen battle. I think Levi gets the best of him. I think Levi takes him out. That's my thing. I think Levi's fed up. He's making a statement first round, putting his hands on the trophy already. Levi's got A1 locked up. I mean, I think he's gonna come out swing. Second place, I think he's gonna get the graceful second, trailing behind 8 to 5 seconds, being somewhere in that gap. I think Max Anstie's gonna be there to swoop in on second place. I think Deegan gets up. Somebody's gonna be battling with him for third. I think he gets the third spot. That's probably be McAdoo or somebody in fourth, battling for him for third last couple laps. But I think Deegan gets third. But I think that's how it's going to play. I think Deegan's going to be up front. I think Levi's going to be up front. I think Levi's gonna set the tone early, and run it up the middle on 4th and 1. Levi Kitchen hammers Deegan. 2-3 laps to go. Deegan goes down. Levi wins it. That's my pick. I feel like that's not crazy, but what do you think about that, Trey?
All I gotta say is if that happens, Max Anstie might be the only guy on the podium getting interviewed that night because they might have to separate those guys and get them out of the stadium. I think if Levi's going to take out Haiden Deegan again in your scenario, I think there's going to be a brawl. It's almost Royal Rumble season in WWE. I think we might have a Royal Rumble on the floor at Angel Stadium if that happens. And of course, Haiden Deegan, he's got this boxing training or whatever he's doing with Jake Paul. We had the little playful slap with Juju last year, but I think Haiden Deegan's going to be trying to throw some Weston Pike hands if he gets taken out by Levi once again. That would be very entertaining, though, to watch all the action from Peacock. Grab your popcorn if that happens, man. It could be really interesting. Then for 12th position on a random spot, I know, fun to pick. I will briefly run through some names on the entry list. Granted, I don't think everybody is here on the entry list, but we're going to go ahead and mention a few of these riders at least so you know who is competing there and to give myself a better idea because, quite frankly, I'm not sure myself. Chance Hymas and Ryder D are not on the entry list as of now, but we expect them to be. On the entry list right now, we have Voland, Moseman, Deegan, Parker Ross, Dylan Schwartz, Lux Turner, Levi Kitchen, Avery Long, Hunter Yoder, Anstie, Chambers, Mumford, Rod Bell, McAdoo. Looking a bit further, Robbie Wageman's always a solid 10 to 15 level guy. Maybe he's in that fight. Josh Varese is back this year, and he's healthy. So who knows for sure who's going to be in that range. But I think for round one, Anaheim won. 12th position, I'm going to go Toyota Redlands Bar X Yamaha. Parker Ross, P12. I think he could definitely get higher than that, but I'm going to go P12 to start out the year for Parker. He had a really good rookie year in 2025, qualified for the playoffs. I got the number 40 finishing P12 on Saturday night.
Tough spot to pick here, P12. You picked Parker Ross?
Yes, sir. Parker Ross, P12.
Man, this is tough one to pick. I'm gonna go Avery Long. I think that's a solid choice.
That was probably my backup option. Avery Long, AEO Power Sports KTM. I think he was 11th or 12th last year at Anaheim 1, so hey, maybe he could be right back in that range again. But of course, we talk about the top level guys, but man, with the Club MX guys, Bar X, AEO, there's some really solid guys in that 8 to 15 range.
Yeah, him, or I think a guy like Chambers could get 12. I think it's kind of crazy if you look at this. Like Crockett Myers is racing West this year. So is Aiden Shive, Brian Saunier. I don't know if you know who that is.
McGinley
a couple
Clinic
other guys
crew
that
representing.
you don't typically see, like on the West Coast.
Matty
So,
Jorgensen's got some speed too. I don't know if he can get to that P12 range, but man, he's shown some speed in the past. Dominic Thury's back. He's got the Team Solitaire seat now that we have Cole Thompson running AMA Arena Cross. B-Ray's in there on a Triumph, the only Triumph I see on the entry list. There's some interesting characters in there for the main event for sure.
Did you see the Arena Cross action the other day, by the way?
I have not been able to really watch any of those races, but Thompson and Ryan Brees, that's some beef right there. We're gonna get to some grade A premium beef if this continues, man. They are taking shots.
Bring the heat, dude. That video was so funny, dude. Bring the heat, Brees. Bring it. Man, that made me laugh. That was funny. Rod Bell's racing?
Yeah.
That SLR Honda?
SLR Rod Bell.
Holy shit. Oh my God.
I will tell my children about Rod Bell Jorgensen SLR Honda lineup. What a crew.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I'm surprised they got I'm surprised they couldn't poach anybody. They had Parker Ross last year. We could have got somebody.
Shame they didn't bring back Billy, man. Put him back on the bike.
Hell, he's almost 50. Probably a good thing he's not racing anymore.
But man, it's going to be interesting to watch that range. There's going to be a lot of guys that might be able to surprise and get in that main event early and turn some heads. But
Hope to see
man,
my boy Crockett in there on the Zook.
yes, on
Privateer
the
Zook.
Suzuki.
Get Crocky Myers in the main event. That'd be sick.
The Crockett Rocket on the Zook is going to be fun. If we got a track with sand on it, just turn him loose, man. He's always been ripping there. But you talk about AMA Arena Cross real quick before we conclude. Why didn't we get Cole Thompson versus Vince Freezy last year? That would have been an amazing battle because I think most people, most fans generally dislike both of them. And I think that would have been a really, really entertaining beef if you would have had Freezy and Thompson going at each other. Although, I mean, Brees and Thompson should be fun, but man, could you imagine if we would have got a Freezy Thompson feud? The amount of
The
shenanigans, they would have been launching bikes at each other from halfway across the arena, probably.
The thing is I don't really think Freeze is like that, like animated of a guy off the track. Like for some reason, like the helmet goes on, that guy freaks out. Like it's wild. Like I don't know what the hell's going on in his head. But like
He
when he
sees
comes off the
red.
track, he like I don't even know if he sees red. He comes off the track and genuinely does not realize the things he did out there. Like it's like whatever just happened while the helmet was on, it's like a blank memory. It's like, oh, I just raced my dirt bike, but like I took out 3 guys, maybe bumped like 7. I don't know.
I'm just a
I don't
chill
know.
guy.
He seems like a chill guy when the helmet's off, but when the helmet's on, I don't know what's going on.
Man, we got some interesting stuff coming up.
Parkzilla though,
Supercross.
Parkzilla Arena Cross. You check that out though. I mean, Linville come for
Gage
the title.
Linville is ripping right now. Yeah, I should have mentioned that series as well. Of course, we've been more dedicated here to the Anaheim 1 previews. But man, Parkzilla Arena Cross is popping off. Landon Gibson took the points lead a few rounds ago. Aiden Shive held it for a little bit in the 450 division, and Gibson took over both points leads. Now we're looking, I think we have 1 round to go at Toledo, looking at the Pro Open standings, and this is the 450 division more so, even though most guys are on 250s. Gage Linville's only 3 points behind Landon Gibson. Keep in mind, too, the Gage, of course, Jack's a little biased because it's his Dirt Bike Depot guy, but Gage Linville didn't compete in the first round. He was just going to run a couple of these rounds for experience, for some gate drops before the 250 E Series kicked off, but he's been winning and winning and winning constantly. Josh Hill beat him this weekend, the only guy to beat him, I believe, in the final Open Pro main event. But Gage Linville, after completely missing the first round of the season, is in here, and he is competing for the championship. I believe Fayetteville might have been the first round of the year. Maybe I'm wrong. I feel like it was somewhere in North Carolina. Clarksville. Wrongville. Yeah, that's right. And then in the 250 Pro class, he's only 8 points down on Gibson. Can Linville, despite missing the first round, show up and be like, yeah, it's my title?
I think it's like 6 or 7 points now with after the last weekend.
I'm looking on the points series, so I don't know for sure, but it's
I don't
showing
think they've
3
updated
points in
Oh,
the
sorry.
Open Pro standings and 8 points in the 250 Pro standings.
Oh, so
We
they did
will
update.
see.
So 3 points. Shoot.
Yeah. It's
When's
gonna
the
be
last
close.
round?
Toledo, I believe, is next weekend while the San Diego Supercross is going on. Let me try to find my schedule real quick. Yes, we have Toledo. Actually, 2 more left, I think. There have been some rounds that were canceled, I believe, in the season, some logistical stuff. Don't know if they'll be rescheduled. But as of now, Toledo and Florence, South Carolina, possibly going to be the battleground for the championship between those two. I mean, this could come down to the wire. If Gage keeps showing up to these races, his track record of success is clear this year because he's won just about every race he's competed in. To be able to make that much ground up, it's insane. So let's see what happens for the rest of the series. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening. Episode number 23 of the Stire Sound, previewing the Monster Energy AMA Supercross 250 class division. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see what happens this weekend. Who will be up front? Who will be potentially surprising? Of course, we'll have some other battles to talk about throughout the season. But for Jack Noel, I am Trey Stire, and the Stire Sound is fading out. It's race season, baby.